I always thought I'd cry at my proposal. Happy tears, the kind that blur your vision while you nod frantically, too overwhelmed to speak. Instead, I stood frozen in my parents' backyard, champagne turning warm in my grip, as my boyfriend of 3 years turned my dream moment into a nightmare. "Lexus," Mark had said, dropping to one knee. The chatter around us died instantly. My mother gasped. My father stopped mid-sentence. Even the cicadas seemed to pause their evening chorus. My heart hammered against my ribs as Mark reached for my hand. His eyes, those deep brown eyes I'd woken up to countless mornings, sparkled with something I couldn't quite place. Not love, something else. "Will you?" He paused, his lips curving into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Pass me the salt?" 5 seconds of silence. Then laughter. His laughter, sharp and cruel, slicing through the humid summer air. "You should see your face right now," he said, standing up and brushing off his knee. "Did you actually think I was proposing?" More laughter rippled through our gathered friends and family. Not kind laughter. The uncomfortable kind that bubbles up when people don't know how to react to something horrible. I. The word caught in my throat. My skin burned. I couldn't look at my mother, couldn't bear to see the pity in her eyes. "Come on, babe. It was just a joke." Mark's hand landed heavy on my shoulder. "Lighten up." A joke. My humiliation was a joke. The future I'd been quietly planning. A joke. I excused myself with a mumbled apology, walking stiffly through the sliding glass doors into the kitchen. The cool air hit my flushed skin as I set my glass down with trembling hands. "Lexus!" My brother Noel's voice. I couldn't turn around. "What the actual fuck was that?" "I don't know." My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "I think I need a minute." "Take all the time you need. That was messed up." He hesitated. "Want me to kick him out?" I shook my head, still not turning. "No, I'll handle it." After Noel left, I gripped the edge of the counter, breathing deeply. 3 years. 3 years of building a life with Mark. Vacations planned around his schedule. Friendships I'd let fade because they drained his energy. The promotion I'd turned down because it would have meant moving away from him. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably Island checking in. She'd warned me about Mark from the beginning. "There's something off about him," she'd said. I dismissed her concerns as jealousy. I pulled out my phone, but it wasn't Island. It was a notification from our shared cloud storage, alerting me that Mark had uploaded new photos. We'd linked our accounts when we moved in together, easier for sharing vacation pictures and utility bills. I opened the notification, needing the distraction. The thumbnail showed Mark at a restaurant I didn't recognize. I tapped to enlarge it. There he was, arm around a woman with glossy dark hair, both smiling, both wearing the unmistakable glow of new love. I swiped to the next photo. The same woman, now kissing Mark's cheek. The date stamp, 3 months ago. Another swipe. Mark and the woman in front of a "sold" sign outside a small bungalow. 2 weeks ago. My lungs constricted. The kitchen tilted. I scrolled through more photos. Weekend trips, dinners, moments of intimacy that mirrored our own early days. All while he was coming home to me, sleeping beside me, telling me he was working late. The last photo stopped me cold. Mark and the woman, standing in what looked like a jewelry store, her hand extended to admire something on her finger. A ring. The sliding door opened behind me. I locked my phone and turned. Mark stood there, easy smile in place. "There you are. Your mom's asking about dessert." I stared at him, seeing him clearly for the first time. The practiced charm, the calculated casualness, the complete absence of remorse in his eyes. "Everything okay?" he asked, head tilting in rehearsed concern. "Who is she?" The words came out steadier than I expected. His expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. "Who's who?" "The woman you're buying a house with. The one with the ring." Now his face changed. Surprise quickly masked by confusion. "What are you talking about?" I held up my phone, not bothering to unlock it. He didn't need to see the photos to know they existed. Cloud storage, Mark, we're still linked. The mask slipped. Just for a second. Long enough for me to see the calculation behind it. Lexus, I can explain. Not here. I glanced toward the backyard, where my family was pretending not to watch us through the glass. Not now. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. It's not what you think. It never is with you, is it? I moved past him toward the door. We're leaving in 5 minutes. And Mark? I turned back, meeting his eyes. If you ever embarrass me in front of my family again, I'll make sure everyone in your life knows exactly who you really are. His text tone chimed as I walked away. I caught a glimpse of the message preview on his screen. Emma, did you do it? Are you finally free? The drive home from my parents' house was excruciating. Mark tried to fill the silence with explanations that grew more desperate with each passing mile. Emma's just a client. The house is an investment property. The ring was for you, a surprise I was planning. I kept my eyes on the road, knuckles white against the steering wheel. Each lie made my stomach twist tighter. 3 years of memories were being rewritten in real time, corrupted by the knowledge that I'd been living in a fiction of his creation. Say something, Lexus, please. I have nothing to say to you. That's not fair. You're not even giving me a chance to explain. I laughed, a hollow sound that surprised even me. Not fair? You humiliated me in front of everyone I love, and now I find out you've been living a double life. What exactly am I supposed to say? It's complicated. No, it's actually very simple. I pulled into our apartment complex, killing the engine. You're a liar. Inside, I moved through our shared space like a stranger, seeing everything differently. The framed photo of us in Cabo. Had he been texting her from that trip? The coffee table he'd insisted on buying. Had they picked it out together? Mark followed me to the bedroom, where I yanked a duffel bag from the closet and began throwing clothes inside. What are you doing? Panic edged into his voice. What does it look like? I'm leaving. Lexus, stop. You're overreacting. He grabbed my wrist. Let's talk about this like adults. I jerked away from his touch. Don't. Where will you even go? Your name is on the lease too. You can't just walk away. Watch me. My phone buzzed. Island. I'd texted her from the car, asking if I could crash at her place. Doors open, wine's breathing. Come whenever. Mark saw the message, and his tone shifted. Island's always hated me. She's going to fill your head with more reasons to be angry instead of helping us work through this. There is no us to work through anything. I zipped the bag closed, and Island saw what I refused to see. Which is what exactly? His voice hardened. That you're empty inside. The words came from somewhere deep and wounded. That you use people until they're not useful anymore, then discard them. His face changed then, the mask of contrition sliding away completely. Is that what you think happened tonight? That I was discarding you? Wasn't that the point of your little stunt? To humiliate me so I'd leave and you wouldn't have to be the bad guy? He smiled, and something cold slithered down my spine. If I wanted to end things, I would have just ended them. Tonight wasn't about getting rid of you. Then what was it about? Control. He shrugged, as if admitting to a minor character flaw. You've been pushing about marriage for months. I needed to shut that down. The casual cruelty stunned me. I never pushed. Please. The wedding magazines. The casual conversations about ring styles. Your mother asking me about my intentions every time we visit. He sat on the edge of the bed. I needed you to stop expecting something I'm never going to give you. I stared at him, this stranger wearing my boyfriend's face. And Emma? What does she expect? Something flickered in his eyes. Annoyance, maybe. Emma understands how relationships actually work. No fantasy princess bullshit. Does she know about me? Of course she knows about you, just like you know about her now. He leaned back on his elbows. So what happens next is up to you. You can leave and blow everything up, or you can adjust your expectations and we can move forward. My phone buzzed again. Island, checking if I was okay. The concern in those three dots on my screen was more genuine than anything Mark had offered in months. You actually think I'd stay after this? I think you've built your life around me for 3 years. Your job, your friends, this apartment, everything is connected to us. Walking away means starting over. He said it like he was explaining something simple to a child. Most people don't have the courage for that. The worst part was, he wasn't entirely wrong. I had shaped myself around him, compromised in 1,000 small ways I'd barely noticed. The realization made me feel hollow. You know what your problem is, Mark? You think everyone operates like you do, that we're all just using each other. I shouldered my bag and walked to the door, then turned back. I'm going to Islands tonight. Tomorrow I'll come back for more of my things while you're at work. This is a mistake, he called after me. You're throwing away 3 years over one bad night. I paused in the doorway. No, I'm saving myself from wasting any more time. In my car, I sat shaking for several minutes before I could drive. My phone lit up with a text, but it wasn't from Mark or Island. Unknown number. I know we've never met, but we need to talk. This is Emma. There's more you should know. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the reply button. Whatever game Mark was playing, it was bigger and more twisted than I'd imagined. And now I had a choice. Walk away completely or dive deeper into his web of lies to find the truth. Island's apartment was exactly what I needed. Warm lighting, the smell of something garlicky simmering on the stove, and no judgment in her eyes when she opened the door. Oh, honey. She pulled me into a hug before I could even set down my bag. I've got wine, ice cream, and a baseball bat if you want to go smash his car windows. That made me laugh through the tears I'd been holding back. Maybe save that for Plan B. She led me to her couch, already set up with blankets and pillows. Tell me everything. So I did. The fake proposal, the photos, the confrontation. By the time I finished, the wine bottle was half empty and Island was seething. That manipulative piece of... She caught herself. Sorry, not helpful. No, please continue. I need someone to be angry for me right now. I stared at my phone, Emma's text still unanswered. I feel numb. That's shock. The anger will come. Island refilled my glass. What are you going to do about her message? I don't know. Part of me wants to ignore it, just cut everything connected to Mark out of my life. And the other part, I sighed, wants answers, wants to understand how I missed so many red flags. You didn't miss them. You chose to see the best in someone who didn't deserve it. Island's voice softened. That's not weakness, Lex. It's hope. My phone buzzed again. Emma. I know you don't trust me. I wouldn't either. But Mark is more dangerous than you realize. Island read the message over my shoulder. Dangerous how? Like, emotionally manipulative dangerous? Or hide your bunny dangerous? I don't know. I typed a response before I could overthink it. What do you mean by dangerous? The reply came immediately. Not over text. Can we meet? Tomorrow morning, Riverfront Coffee, 9 a.m. I'll be wearing a green scarf. I showed Island. What do you think? I think you should go, but not alone. She squeezed my shoulder. I'll sit at another table, pretend to be working. If anything feels off, I'll create a distraction and we leave. You'd do that? Ha, are you kidding? I've been waiting 3 years to say, I told you so, about Mark. Her attempt at humor didn't quite mask her concern. Seriously, though, I'm not letting you face this alone. Later, after Island had gone to bed, I curled up on her couch and opened my laptop. A notification popped up. Mark had shared a new document with me. My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. It was a spreadsheet of our shared expenses. Rent, utilities, groceries, streaming services. At the bottom, a note. We need to discuss how to handle these. Call me. The calculated practicality of it made my blood boil. No apology. No acknowledgement of the harm he'd caused. Just a spreadsheet, as if our relationship could be reduced to a series of transactions. Something snapped inside me. I opened a new browser tab and logged into our shared cloud storage. 3 years of photos, documents, text message backups, all the digital debris of our relationship. I began methodically downloading everything that might contain evidence of Mark's deception, creating a folder labeled Receipts, text messages where he claimed to be working late, photos with location data that contradicted his stories, email confirmations for gifts I never received. With each file, my shock hardened into something sharper, more focused. By 3 a.m., I had compiled enough to see the pattern. Mark hadn't just been cheating, he'd been systematically lying about almost everything: finances, his job, his past. The realization made me physically ill. I closed my laptop and reached for my phone, needing to talk to someone who might understand. Not Island. She was asleep. And besides, she'd never liked Mark. I needed someone who knew him, who might help me make sense of this. I scrolled to Kendra's name, my mentor from my first job out of college. She'd known Mark almost as long as I had. They'd even worked together briefly. My finger hovered over the call button, then retreated. It was the middle of the night. This could wait until morning. But as I set my phone down, it lit up with a text. Kendra, are you awake? I just heard from Mark. His version sounds suspicious. Need to talk. My heart raced. Mark was already spinning his narrative, trying to control how others saw our breakup. I called her immediately. Lexus, Kendra answered on the first ring. I'm so sorry to text so late, but I'm worried. What did he tell you? That you had a misunderstanding, found some photos that looked bad but weren't what they seemed. He said you stormed out without letting him explain. Her voice was careful, measuring each word. But I've known you both too long to believe that's the whole story. It's not. My voice cracked. Kendra, everything was a lie. I was afraid of that. She paused. There's something you should know. Mark came to me 6 months ago, asking for a recommendation for a position at Vertex Media. I gave it to him, but afterward, I heard rumors that made me uncomfortable. What kind of rumors? That he was using company resources to set up some kind of side business. Nothing was proven, but... She hesitated. Lexus, I think he's been planning something for a while. And I think it involves both Emma and you. My stomach dropped. I'm meeting Emma tomorrow. Be careful, and Lexus, document everything. If what I suspect is true, you're going to need proof. After we hung up, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Mark wasn't just a cheater, he was a con artist. And somehow, I'd become a character in his elaborate fiction. The numbness was gone now, replaced by something that felt dangerously close to purpose. Mark had underestimated me, assumed I'd crumble or slink away in shame. He'd forgotten what I did for a living, crafting narratives, controlling perceptions. Two could play at that game. Riverfront coffee buzzed with morning energy, laptops opening, espresso machines hissing, strangers navigating the delicate dance of shared space. I arrived 20 minutes early, choosing a corner table with a view of both entrances. Island settled 2 tables away, arranging her workspace with deliberate casualness. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I wrapped them around my mug, letting the warmth seep into my palms. The 3 hours of fitful sleep I'd managed hadn't been enough to process Kendra's warning. What kind of scheme could involve both me and the woman Mark was cheating with? At precisely 9:00, a woman with a green scarf draped around her neck entered. She scanned the room, her gaze settling on me with immediate recognition. Shorter than I'd expected. Prettier, too, in an understated way that made me instantly self-conscious about my unwashed hair and yesterday's clothes. Lexus! Her voice was soft, uncertain. I nodded, gesturing to the empty chair across from me. Emma! She sat, unwinding her scarf with nervous fingers. Thank you for meeting me. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. I studied her face, searching for signs of deception. Why did you reach out? Because I know what it feels like to realize everything you believed was a lie. She met my gaze directly. And because I think we're both in trouble. Something in her tone sent a chill through me. From the corner of my eye, I saw Island shift slightly, tuning in to our conversation. What kind of trouble? Emma glanced around before leaning closer. Has Mark ever asked you to sign anything? Investment documents? Loan applications? Anything financial? My stomach tightened. He's been pushing me to co-sign on a small business loan. Said it was for a consulting startup he's launching. Let me guess. Meridian Consulting Group? The name hit me like a physical blow. How did you know that? Because I signed the same paperwork 3 months ago. She pulled out her phone, showing me a document with both our names listed as partners. Except I was told you were a silent investor who'd already committed funds. My head spun. I never signed anything. Ah, I know. That's what worried me when I saw these. She swiped to photos of documents bearing what looked like my signature. These aren't just loan applications. They're shell company formations, vendor contracts, even property leases, all with our names attached. I stared at the evidence of fraud laid out on her screen. He forged my signature and used my actual signature on documents I never saw. Emma's voice tightened. I think he's setting us up to take the fall for something. The fall for what? I'm not entirely sure, but it involves his real employer, Vertex Media. She hesitated. I work in their accounting department. That's how we met. He's been moving money around, setting up fake vendors that funnel payments to accounts I can't trace. Vertex Media, the company Kendra had mentioned. The pieces were starting to align in a pattern more disturbing than mere infidelity. How long have you known about me? I asked. Emma's eyes dropped to her coffee. From the beginning. He told me you were breaking up, that it was complicated because of shared finances and property. She looked up, guilt etched across her face. I believed him because I wanted to. By the time I realized he was lying about that too, I was already involved in whatever he's planning. And the house? The ring? The house is real. It's in both our names, but I paid the down payment. Her voice cracked slightly. The ring was just for show, to convince me he was serious about our future, while he kept stringing you along too. A wave of nausea washed over me. The depth of Mark's manipulation was staggering. Why tell me now? Why not weeks ago? Because of what happened at your parents' house. Emma's expression hardened. That wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. He came home laughing about it, saying you'd be too humiliated to question anything now. That's when I knew I couldn't be part of this anymore. I absorbed this, feeling something shift inside me. The hurt was still there, but now it shared space with a cold, clear anger. We need to go to the police, I said. Emma shook her head quickly. Not yet. We don't have enough proof of what he's actually doing. Right now, it would be his word against ours, and he's very convincing. Then what do we do? I can access Vertex's financial systems. If I can document the money trail, we'll have something concrete. She reached across the table, her fingers stopping just short of touching mine. But I need time, and I need you to act normal if he contacts you. The bell above the door chimed. Emma tensed, her eyes widening as she looked past me. Don't turn around, she whispered. It's Noel. My brother. I started to look. Don't. Her voice was urgent. He and Mark are friends, close friends. Mark might have sent him to watch us. Ice flooded my veins. Noel and Mark had always been friendly, but close? Close enough to spy for him? That's impossible. Noel was furious about what happened at my parents'. Was he? Or did he just say what you needed to hear? Emma gathered her things quickly. Trust no one until we know more, not even family. She stood, wrapping her scarf around her neck. I'll contact you when I have something concrete. Until then, be careful what you say to anyone. As Emma walked out, I caught Island's questioning gaze. I gave a small nod to indicate I was okay. My phone buzzed with a text from Noel. Is that you at Riverfront? Thought I saw you through the window. Want to grab coffee? I stared at the message, paralyzed by sudden doubt. The brother who'd always protected me, who'd offered to kick Mark out just 2 nights ago. Could he really be part of this? Another text arrived, this one from Emma. Check your email. Password is Meridian Partner 2023. Don't reply to anyone until you've seen everything. I couldn't breathe. The documents in the email account Emma had shared were damning. loan applications, business registrations, wire transfers, all bearing my forged signature alongside Emma's legitimate one. The scope of Mark's scheme was dizzying. He hadn't just been cheating. He'd been constructing an elaborate financial fraud with both of us as unwitting accomplices. You need to talk to your brother, Island said, scrolling through the evidence on my laptop. We'd retreated to her apartment after the coffee shop. If he's involved, you need to know. And if he is? What then? My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. Do I just accept that everyone in my life has been lying to me? Island squeezed my shoulder. Not everyone. My phone buzzed again. Noel's third message since the coffee shop. Seriously concerned about you, sis. Mom says you're not answering her calls either. At least let me know you're alive. He sounds genuinely worried, Island observed. So did Mark when he asked about my family's medical history for our future children. I tossed my phone aside. I can't trust my own judgment anymore. Then trust mine. Island closed the laptop. Noel adores you. Always has. If Mark somehow manipulated him too, your brother deserves a chance to explain. She was right. I needed to know where Noel stood, one way or another. I texted him back. Can you meet at Parkside in an hour? Just you. His reply was immediate. I'll be there. Parkside was busy with afternoon joggers and dog walkers. I spotted Noel on our usual bench, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. He jumped up when he saw me, relief washing over his face. Jesus, Lexus, you scared the hell out of me. He moved to hug me, but I stepped back. His arms dropped, hurt flashing in his eyes. What's going on? I need to ask you something, and I need the absolute truth. I kept my voice steady. How close are you and Mark, really? Confusion creased his brow. What do you mean? Do you talk to him regularly? Share information about me? Help him with business ventures? Understanding dawned on his face. Is that what this is about? You think I'm in cahoots with the guy who humiliated my sister? He laughed, but it died quickly when he saw my expression. Lex, come on, you can't be serious. Someone saw you at Riverfront this morning. Said you and Mark are close friends. I was at Riverfront because Mom asked me to check on you after you ignored her calls. He ran a hand through his hair. And yeah, Mark and I occasionally grab beers. I thought keeping communication open with your boyfriend was the right thing to do. Clearly, I was wrong. The sincerity in his voice made my resolve waver. He's been setting up fake businesses using my forged signature, Noel, and I was told you might be involved. Told by who? His face hardened. That woman you were meeting? The one with the green scarf? My blood ran cold. How did you? Because Mark called me yesterday, completely freaked out. Said his ex-colleague Emma was obsessed with him, that she'd been stalking him for months and might try to contact you with crazy stories. Noel pulled out his phone. I was going to show you these. He handed me his phone, open to a series of increasingly unhinged text messages, supposedly from Emma to Mark, threatening to destroy everything if he didn't leave me. These are dated from 3 months ago, I said, scrolling through them. Yeah. He said it's been going on since he rejected her advances at work. That's why he didn't tell you. He was handling it privately through HR. My mind raced. Either Emma was playing an elaborate game, or Mark was several steps ahead of us, having already planted seeds of doubt about her credibility. Noel, I've seen documents with my forged signature, business registrations, loan applications. Shown to you by a woman Mark already warned was trying to sabotage your relationship. Noel took his phone back. Have you actually verified any of this independently? I hadn't. Everything I knew had come directly from Emma. Look, Noel continued, his voice gentler. I'm not saying Mark is innocent. That stunt at Mom and Dad's was unforgivable. But before you go down some conspiracy rabbit hole, maybe consider that this Emma person might have her own agenda. Doubt crept in like a fog, obscuring what had seemed so clear just hours before. What if Emma was manipulating me too? I don't know what to believe anymore, I admitted. Then believe this. Noel took my hands. Whatever's happening, you're not alone. We'll figure it out together. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Emergency. Mark found out we met. Deleted all evidence from Vertex servers. Need to meet now. Your apartment in 30 minutes. Noel saw the message. Is that her? Lexus, this is exactly what Mark warned about. She's trying to isolate you, make you paranoid. Or she's telling the truth and Mark is covering his tracks. I stood up. I need to know for sure. Then I'm coming with you. No. The firmness in my voice surprised us both. If she's telling the truth, you could spook her. If she's lying, I need to see it for myself. At least let me drive you, he insisted. I'll wait in the car. I hesitated, then nodded. Whatever truth awaited me at the apartment, I was done being manipulated. One way or another, I was taking back control of my narrative. As we walked to his car, another text came through. This one from Kendra. Just got a disturbing call from Mark about Emma Lopez. Says she's been fired from Vertex for financial irregularities. Be careful, Lexus. I think you're being played, but I'm not sure by whom. The apartment building looked exactly the same as it had 2 days ago, but everything felt different. As Noel's car idled at the curb, I stared up at the windows that had once represented home. You sure about this? Noel asked, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. We could call the police, have them meet you. And tell them what? That my ex might be committing fraud, but also his alleged other girlfriend might be stalking him, and I don't know which story is true? I shook my head. I need answers first. Call me the second anything feels off. I mean it, Lexus. I nodded, then stepped out into the crisp afternoon air. My key still worked in the building's front door, a small mercy. In the elevator, I tried to organize my thoughts. If Emma was telling the truth, Mark was a sophisticated con artist who'd been setting us both up. If Mark was telling the truth, I was walking into a meeting with an unstable stalker. Neither option was particularly comforting. The elevator doors opened on our floor. I half expected to see Emma waiting, but the hallway was empty. As I approached our apartment door, I noticed it was slightly ajar. My heartbeat quickened. I pushed the door open slowly, listening for voices. Hello? Emma? Silence. The apartment looked different. Mark's laptop was gone from the coffee table. The framed photos of us had been removed from the walls, leaving faint rectangles on the paint. It felt like he'd been systematically erasing evidence of our relationship. Emma! I called again, moving cautiously toward the bedroom. The sound of the front door closing behind me made me whirl around. Mark stood there, key in hand, expression unreadable. She's not coming, he said quietly. Fear shot through me. What did you do to her? Nothing. There was never any emergency text. He held up a phone, my old backup that I'd forgotten in a drawer. I sent that message to get you here. I backed away, fumbling for my phone. Noel is right outside. I know. I saw him drop you off. Mark's tone remained eerily calm. He can wait. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. He gestured to the couch. When I didn't move, he sighed. I'm not going to hurt you, Lexus. If that was my intention, I've had 3 years of opportunity. Against my better judgment, I perched on the edge of the couch, keeping my phone visible in my hand. Mark remained standing, maintaining distance between us. Emma Lopez was fired from Vertex Media yesterday for attempting to embezzle company funds, he said. She's been using my name and position to authorize fraudulent transfers for months. That's not what she told me. Of course not. She needed a scapegoat, and I was convenient. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my chest ache. When she realized she was about to be caught, she tried to frame me by creating false documents linking me to her scheme. And my forged signatures? The shell companies with both our names? Something flickered across his face. Surprise, quickly masked. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Mark. I've seen the documents. He sat down heavily in the chair across from me. Show me. I hesitated, then pulled up the email account Emma had shared. Mark's eyes widened as he scrolled through the evidence. This is elaborate. He looked up at me. But it's not real, Lexus. These are forgeries. Good ones, but forgeries nonetheless. Just like you forged my signature? I never. He stopped, his expression shifting. Wait, you actually believe I did this? You humiliated me in front of my family. You've been living with another woman. Why wouldn't I believe you capable of fraud, too? Mark set my phone down carefully. The proposal thing was cruel, I admit that. I was trying to shock you into seeing how absurd your marriage expectations were. It was wrong. And Emma? The house you bought together? Emma and I dated briefly 6 months ago. It ended when I realized how unstable she was. He leaned forward. There is no house, Lexus. Whatever she showed you was fabricated. My head spun. Two completely contradictory narratives, both delivered with absolute conviction. I don't know what to believe anymore, I admitted. Believe this. Mark pulled out his own phone, opening an email. This is from Vertex's legal department to all employees. Emma Lopez has been terminated and is under investigation for financial crimes. The email looked legitimate, sent from an official Vertex address with proper formatting and signatures. If what you're saying is true, I said slowly, then why the other woman in the photos? The ones in our shared cloud storage? Mark's brow furrowed. What photos? I grabbed my phone back, navigating to the cloud folder. These photos, Mark. You and Emma together, dating back months, while we were still together. He stared at the images, genuine confusion crossing his face. I've never seen these before. This isn't our cloud account. Of course it is. I've been using it for years. Look at the account name, Lexus. I glanced at the top of the screen. Instead of our usual account name, it showed Mark Lexus 2023. A subtle variation I hadn't noticed in my emotional state. Someone created a fake account and populated it with doctored photos, Mark said quietly. Probably using AI to place me in scenes with Emma. Technology makes this kind of deception trivially easy now. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. If Mark was telling the truth, I'd been manipulated far more extensively than I'd realized. If he was lying, he was doing it with a sophistication that was terrifying. My phone buzzed with a text from Noel. Everything okay? Been 15 minutes. Before I could respond, another message appeared. From Emma's number. Don't trust him. I've been arrested. Mark reported me to police with fabricated evidence. The real documents proving his fraud are in a USB drive hidden in your apartment. Check behind the bedroom air vent. Mark saw the message. Our eyes met in a moment of perfect understanding. Whoever was telling the truth. The evidence that would prove it was supposedly hidden in our bedroom. We both moved at the same time. I reached the bedroom door first, slamming it shut behind me and twisting the lock. Mark's fist pounded against the wood as I backed away, heart hammering in my chest. Lexus! Open the door! His voice had lost its calculated calm. You're making a mistake! I scanned the room, spotting the air vent near the floor by the window. Dropping to my knees, I pried at the metal grate with trembling fingers. It resisted, then gave way with a metallic groan. There's nothing there, Mark shouted. She's manipulating you. The pounding grew more insistent. I thrust my hand into the dusty darkness of the vent, feeling nothing at first. Then my fingers brushed against something solid, a small plastic case taped to the inside wall. The bedroom door shuddered as Mark slammed against it. The cheap lock wouldn't hold much longer. I yanked the USB drive free and scrambled to my feet, looking frantically for an escape route. The window led to a fire escape, but we were 4 floors up. My phone buzzed again. Noel, still waiting outside. Something's wrong, coming up now. The door splintered around the lock. I had seconds, not minutes. With no better option, I dove for the closet, burying myself behind hanging clothes just as the bedroom door crashed open. Mark's footsteps moved rapidly across the floor. Where is it? He muttered. Where would she hide it? Through a gap in the clothes, I watched him check the vent, then curse when he found it empty. He pulled out his phone. She found it, he said to someone on the other end. No, I don't know if she's seen what's on it yet. Yes, I understand what's at stake. The apartment's front door opened with a bang. "Lexus?" Noel's voice called out. Mark's head snapped up. "In here!" he called back, his voice instantly shifting to concern. "She locked herself in, then disappeared. I think she might have gone down the fire escape." I held my breath as Noel appeared in the doorway. "What the hell is going on?" "Emma Lopez has been manipulating her, showing her fake documents, claiming I'm running some kind of fraud scheme." Mark ran his hands through his hair in apparent distress. "Now Lexus thinks there's evidence hidden in the apartment." Noel's eyes narrowed. "And you broke down the door because—" "I was worried. She's not thinking clearly." My brother's gaze drifted to the closet, then back to Mark. Something in his expression shifted. "You know what's weird?" Noel said casually. "I called Vertex Media this morning, asked for Emma Lopez in accounting. They transferred me right to her desk." Mark froze. "That's impossible. She was fired yesterday." "That's what I thought. So I asked the receptionist about it. She said there's never been an Emma Lopez working there." Noel took a step closer to Mark. "But there is a Marcus Lopez in their executive team. Your actual name, isn't it? Before you changed it to Mark Sullivan?" The air seemed to crystallize. Mark's face hardened into something I'd never seen before. Cold, calculating, dangerous. "You should have stayed in the car, Noel. And you should never have messed with my sister." Everything happened at once. Mark lunged toward the window. Noel moved to intercept him. I burst from the closet, clutching the USB drive. "Stop!" I shouted. Both men froze, turning toward me. "It's over, Mark. Or Marcus. Or whatever your real name is." I held up the USB drive. "I'm guessing the truth is on here." "You don't understand what you're involved in," Mark said, his voice eerily calm again. "This goes beyond just us." "Then explain it to me." "I can't. But I can tell you that if what's on that drive goes public, people will get hurt. Real people, not just me." "More manipulation," Noel said. "Don't listen to him, Lex." Mark's eyes never left mine. 3 years together. You know me, Lexus. Whatever you think I've done, I'm not a monster. For a moment, doubt crept in. What if I was wrong? What if there was more to this story than I understood? Then I remembered his face when he fake proposed, that flash of cruel satisfaction as he watched my humiliation. The calculated way he'd tried to make me doubt my own perceptions. The ease with which he switched between personas. "You're right. You're not a monster," I said quietly. "Monsters are obvious. You're something worse, a predator who looks like safety." I backed toward the door. "Noel, we're leaving. Now." "You can't just walk away from this," Mark warned, taking a step toward me. Noel moved between us. "Try to stop her, and you'll regret it." Something dangerous flashed in Mark's eyes. "You have no idea what you're doing." "Actually, I do." I held up my phone, showing the recording app running. "I've captured this entire conversation. Whatever's on this drive, the police will have both." "The police won't help you," Mark said. But I could see the calculation behind his eyes. Weighing options, looking for leverage. Maybe not. But Vertex Media might be interested to learn what their executive has been doing with company resources. I edged toward the door with Noel. "Or maybe the SEC would care about those shell companies you've been creating." Mark's face hardened. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "My mistake was letting you convince me I was less than I am. That ends today." As we backed out of the apartment, Mark made no move to follow. Instead, he watched with cold calculation, like someone memorizing an opponent's weaknesses. "This isn't over," he called after us. "For me, it is," I replied, and meant it. In the hallway, Noel pulled the fire alarm. "Insurance," he explained, as we hurried toward the stairs. "Creates witnesses, makes it harder for him to follow us without being noticed." As residents began emerging from their apartments, confused and annoyed, I clutched the USB drive that might contain the truth, or might be another elaborate manipulation. Either way, I was done being a character in Mark's story. Whatever came next would be on my terms. My phone buzzed with a text from Kendra. Meet me at my office ASAP. Bring whatever evidence you have. I've contacted someone who can help. Kendra's office felt like a fortress, all polished wood and soft lighting, 30 floors above the chaos of the city. She wasn't alone. A woman in a crisp suit stood by the window, her posture suggesting authority even before she turned to face us. "This is Agent Reyes," Kendra said. "FBI Financial Crimes Division." My grip tightened on the USB drive in my pocket. FBI? Isn't that excessive for relationship fraud? Agent Reyes smiled thinly. "We're not investigating a bad boyfriend, Ms. Carter. We're investigating a sophisticated financial scheme that's been operating across 3 states for the past 5 years. She gestured to the conference table where a laptop waited. "May I see what you've found?" I hesitated, looking at Noel, who nodded encouragingly. I placed the USB drive on the table, but didn't push it forward. "First, I need to understand what's happening. The real Emma Lopez contacted me, but Mark, or Marcus, claims she doesn't exist. Then, Noel says there's a Marcus Lopez at Vertex." I turned to Kendra. "And somehow you knew to contact the FBI. Kendra sighed. "I've suspected something was wrong for months. Marcus Lopez joined Vertex last year with impeccable credentials. Credentials I helped verify because he used me as a reference. But small discrepancies started appearing. Financial reports that didn't quite add up. Client meetings that couldn't be verified. When Kendra brought her concerns to us," Agent Reyes continued, "we discovered Marcus Lopez was one of several identities used by a man we've been tracking for years. He creates elaborate financial schemes, usually involving multiple romantic partners, who unwittingly provide cover and take the fall when he disappears." "And Emma?" I asked. "Is she real?" "Very real," Agent Reyes confirmed. "And in protective custody since this morning. She's been working with us for weeks, gathering evidence after she realized what was happening." My mind reeled. "So everything she told me was true?" "Most of it. She did meet with you at our suggestion, but the danger to her was very real. Marcus realized she was cooperating with us and attempted to discredit her before she could reach you." I pushed the USB drive toward her. "Then this contains actual evidence?" "Let's find out." As Agent Reyes inserted the drive, I felt strangely hollow. Vindication should have been satisfying, but all I could think about were the 3 years I'd spent loving someone who had never actually existed. The drive contained exactly what Emma had promised: financial records, email trails, and documentation of an elaborate scheme involving shell companies, falsified investment opportunities, and identity theft. My name appeared throughout, my signature forged on dozens of documents. "This is extensive," Agent Reyes murmured, scrolling through the files. "He was setting you up as the primary fall person. If this had played out as he planned, you would have faced federal charges while he disappeared with millions." "Why me?" The question escaped before I could stop it. "Out of everyone he could have chosen?" Kendra reached for my hand. "Because you're trusting, loyal, and successful enough to be credible. Perfect qualities in a partner and in a patsy." "We'll need your formal statement," Agent Reyes said. "But this evidence, combined with what Emma provided, gives us enough to move on Marcus immediately." "He'll run," I said with certainty. "He was already preparing to disappear when we left the apartment." "We have agents in place," she assured me. "He won't get far." As if on cue, her phone buzzed. She checked it, then looked up with satisfaction. "They've got him. Trying to board a flight to Vancouver." Relief should have flooded me, but instead, I felt a strange urge building in my chest. It took me a moment to recognize it as laughter, slightly hysterical, but genuine. "Something funny?" Noel asked, concerned. "Just realizing the irony," I managed. "He spent 3 years convincing me I wasn't enough, that I needed to be smaller, more accommodating, less ambitious. And in the end, he chose me because I was too substantial to ignore." The laughter faded, leaving behind something stronger. Not closure. That would take time, but clarity. "What happens now?" I asked Agent Reyes. "For him, prosecution, almost certainly prison. For you?" She closed the laptop. That's up to you. The gallery buzzed with conversation and the gentle clink of glasses. My first solo photography exhibition, Authentic Deceptions, had drawn a larger crowd than I'd expected. They're responding to the honesty, Island said, appearing at my elbow with two champagne flutes. People recognize truth when they see it. I accepted the glass, surveying the room. Each photograph captured moments of genuine emotion juxtaposed with constructed facades, a theme that had consumed my work since that night at my parents' house. Speaking of truth, Island nodded toward the entrance where Emma stood hesitantly, scanning the crowd until she spotted me. Our relationship remained complicated, bound by shared trauma and lingering wariness, but also by understanding no one else could offer. Your work is incredible, she said when she reached us, especially this one. She gestured to the centerpiece of the exhibition, a split image. On one side, the moment before Mark's fake proposal, my face alight with hope and trust. On the other, my reflection in the mirror the morning after, eyes clear and unflinching. It's strange, I admitted. I thought I'd feel embarrassed having that moment on display. Instead, it feels like reclaiming it. That's why it works, Emma said. You're not hiding from what happened. You're transforming it. Across the room, Noel caught my eye, giving me a thumbs up as he chatted with the gallery owner. Kendra was there too, proudly introducing me to her industry contacts as the most insightful new artist she'd discovered in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Agent Reyes. Guilty on all counts. Thought you'd want to know. I slipped the phone back into my pocket without responding. Marcus Lopez's fate no longer defined my story. You know what the strangest part is? I said to Emma and Island. For months, I was obsessed with understanding why he chose me, what made me vulnerable. But that was still centering him in my narrative. I looked around at the crowded gallery, at the people engaging with my perspective, my truth. The real question was never why he chose me, I said, raising my glass in a small toast to myself. It's why I've chosen differently now.